When people are present, we tend to feel less compelled to help someone in need. This phenomenon is known as the bystander effect, which refers to the observation that individuals are less likely to offer help to a victim when there are other people present. But why does this happen? To answer that question, researchers have proposed several theories. One of the most widely accepted theories is the diffusion of responsibility. When there are other people around, we might assume that someone else will take responsibility for helping the person in need. For example, if we see someone lying on the sidewalk, we might assume that they're drunk or that they're just resting and not actually hurt. We also might think that someone else has already called 911 or that they'll call 911 if they have UNT already. Because of this, we don't feel as much personal responsibility to help and therefore we don't intervene. In this video, I'm going to talk about the bystander effect, what causes it, and some real-life examples where the bystander effect led to tragic consequences. In an experiment conducted in 1964 by John Darley and Bibb Layton, participants were placed in a room with a smoke-filled glass box and told that the other person in the room was smoking. After a few minutes, the participants were told that the person had left the room and the smoke began to fill up the entire room. Despite the fact that the participants could clearly see that the smoke was coming from the box and that it was filling up the room, none of the participants helped to open the box to stop the smoke until it became too thick to breathe. In this case, the bystander effect was likely due to diffusion of responsibility. The participants probably thought that someone else would take responsibility for opening the box since all of them knew that it needed to be opened. No one took responsibility and therefore no one helped. Another factor that contributes to the bystander effect is social influence. We look to other people for cues on how to behave, especially in ambiguous situations. If we see that other people aren't reacting to a situation, we might assume that it's not a big deal and that we do not need to do anything. This is exactly what happened in the Kitty Genovese case. Kitty Genovese was a young woman who was walking home from work in New York City in 1964. As she was walking through an alley, she was attacked by a man. Although several people witnessed the attack, nobody came to her aid until it was too late. The police later learned that at least 38 people had witnessed the attack from their apartments, but none of them had called the police or offered any assistance. This case is often cited as the classic example of the bystander effect. However, the details of the case have been heavily disputed and dramatized over the years. Nevertheless, the case highlights how social influence can play a role in the bystander effect. Those who witnessed the attack probably looked to others for guidance on how to react, and since no one else seemed to think it was a big deal, they didn't either. Another factor that can contribute to the bystander effect is the ambiguity of the situation. If it's not clear what is happening, we might be less likely to intervene. For example, if we see someone lying on the ground, we might not be sure if they need help or not. Are they hurt, or are they just resting? Are they intoxicated or sober? In cases like these, we might be less likely to help because we're not sure what to do. We might also fear that we'll make things worse if we intervene. This is known as pluralistic ignorance. We might be unsure of the situation, but we assume that other people understand what ESCO is on and that they're really not helping because they do and think it is necessary. In addition to these three factors, there are probably many more that contribute to the bystander effect. These factors often work together to make us less likely to help someone in need. The good news is that we can take steps to overcome the bystander effect so that we're more likely to help in these situations. One way we can do this is to educate ourselves about the bystander effect and its contributing factors. If we understand why we might not help someone in a given situation, we can take steps to overcome it. This is what happened in the case of Maria Ressa. Maria Ressa was a young woman who was walking home from work in New York City in 2007 when she was attacked by a group of men. Although no one witnessed the attack itself, several people did witness the aftermath and many of them offered assistance. Unlike the Kitty Genovese case, the bystanders in this case were able to help because they were educated about the dangers of sexual assault and the importance of intervening. Another way we can overcome the bystander effect is to be aware of our surroundings. If we pay attention to what's going on around us, we're more likely to notice when something is wrong. We're also more likely to be able to assess the situation accurately and determine whether or not we need to intervene. In a study published in 2010, researchers found that people who reported being highly attentive were more likely to help others in need. Another thing we can do is ask for help. If we're not sure how to help someone, or if we're afraid that we might make things worse, we can always ask for help. This could mean calling 911 or asking another bystander to help us figure out what to do. By asking for help, we can ensure that the person in need gets the assistance they need while also protecting ourselves from potential harm. Finally, we can simply choose to help. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to help someone is up to us. We could choose to ignore the person in need and hope that someone else helps, or we could choose to take action. Sometimes taking action could mean putting ourselves in danger. However, oftentimes we can help someone without putting ourselves at risk. So it's important to remember that just because other people are UNT helping, does UNT mean that we should UNT? The bystander effect is a well-documented phenomenon that can have serious consequences. It can be helpful to know about the bystander effect so that we can take steps to avoid it. There are many situations where the bystander effect has led to tragic outcomes. In each of these cases, people were present and could have helped, but they didn't. In 1984, a young woman named Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped from her home in Utah. Her kidnapper, Brian Mitchell, was a member of a local church and had attended many of Elizabeth's youth group meetings. On the day of the kidnapping, Mitchell went to the Smart family home and told them that he was there to fix some gutters. While he was there, he drugged the family and then kidnapped Elizabeth. Several members of the church witnessed Mitchell's strange behavior on the day of the kidnapping, but none of them intervened. They assumed that Mitchell was just a friendly neighborhood handyman, even though he was acting very suspiciously. In 2007, a teenager named Kayla Montgomery was walking home from school when she was approached by a stranger. The man asked Kayla for directions, but when she turned to point him in the right direction, he grabbed her and tried to drag her into his car. Several people witnessed the attack, but none of them intervened. They assumed that Kayla was old enough to handle herself, even though the man was twice her size and strength. In 2011, a young woman named Christina Morris disappeared after leaving a bar in Texas with a man she had just met. Surveillance footage shows the two of them getting into a car with two other men. The next day, Christina's car was found abandoned on the side of the road and her cell phone was found in a nearby parking lot. A massive search effort was launched, but Christina was never found. The police believe that the men she left the bar with are responsible for her disappearance, but the case remains unsolved. Each of these cases is tragic and there is no one answer as to why the bystander effect occurred in each of them. However, it's likely that a combination of the factors discussed in this video contributed to it. In each case, those who witnessed the crime or suspicious behavior likely felt a sense of responsibility to help. They may have been unsure of the situation, looked to others for guidance, or simply chosen not to get involved. Bystander effect is a powerful force that can have deadly consequences. It's important to be aware of the factors that contribute to it so that we can take steps to prevent it from happening. Hopefully, by understanding the bystander effect, we can all become better bystanders and help create a safer world for everyone. What are your thoughts on the bystander effect? Have you ever witnessed it firsthand? Let me know in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.